In case you haven't heard, Syracuse has never won an ACC tournament game, but that can change on Tuesday against Wake Forest. Hello, everyone, and welcome inside the Citrus TV studios for another web edition of Cuse Countdown. Alongside AJ Fabry, Mike Adzema, I'm Jonathan Hoppe. Guys, before we get to this matchup on Tuesday with Wake Forest for Syracuse, let's take a look back at the regular season. 19-12, 8-10 in conference play. So I ask you guys, before the season, did you think Syracuse would do better than they did, worse, or did they do about the same?
Well, for me, I think they did just about where I expected them to be, at least in terms of ACC play. You had a couple tough road games in the conference play. You had to go on the road to Duke at Cameron Indoor, on the road at Florida State and Miami, even though they won that Miami game. Maybe won a game or two here that they weren't expected to win and lost a game that they should have won. So all in all, I think it's right about on pace where I expected them to be at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, I think the Syracuse team definitely exceeds expectations. You only had Tyus Battle and Frank Howard coming back, who had decent minutes on this team last year. You essentially had first-year players in Oshae Brissett, Marek Dolezaj, even Pascal Chukwu, who did not get a lot of burn in last year's squad due to injury. So 8 wins in an ACC conference that has teams like North Carolina, Duke, Virginia. I think you have to be happy with that if you're an Orange fan.
Syracuse and Wake Forest, very familiar with each other, played twice back in the regular season. Now let's take a look at the stats of these two teams from the regular season, and you'll see that Wake Forest has the edge in nearly every category that we have listed. The only one Syracuse better than the Demon Deacons in, opponents' points. Syracuse allows 64.1 points per game in the regular season. Wake Forest 74.4, a big advantage defensively for Syracuse. And these two teams met back in early January in Winston-Salem. Wake Forest got the win, but then Syracuse returned the favor in the Loud House later on in the ACC play. But now it's the ACC tournament. Wake Forest and Syracuse, not to get ahead of myself, but an exciting matchup. And guys, what's the key to that game for the Orange?
Well, my key for the Orange to pull out the win in this one is to be careful with the basketball. That loss in Winston-Salem we talked about in January, the Orange turned the ball over 13 times, but when the Orange got the win in the Carrier Dome last month, they only turned the ball over 8 times, and they forced Wake to lose the ball 14 times in that game. I think if Syracuse wants to win this game in the ACC tournament, they have to avoid making sloppy plays and force Wake into a few more errors in order to get their first win in ACC tournament play.
Yeah, definitely got to keep it clean, but my key to this game is to challenge Wake's sharpshooters. Wake Forest is shooting 38% from three-point range. That's third best in the ACC. That's pretty impressive. You got guys like Brian Crawford and Mitchell Wilbekin. They've burned the Orange twice this year. In Winston-Salem, they combined for 7 threes. And then in the Carrier Dome, in the Syracuse win, they combined for 8. Syracuse was up 13 in the second half. And then they went on a run that they knocked down 4 straight three-pointers. These guys can score from anywhere on the court. Syracuse has got to be aware of where they are, and they got to shut them down if they want to win this game.
Okay, AJ, coming right back to you. Can the Orange pick up its first ACC tournament win on Tuesday against Wake Forest?
I think the monkey is coming off the back in this one. I like Syracuse 65-60. Listen, Wake Forest is 4-14 in ACC play this year, but listen, these guys aren't as bad as they look. They can knock down shots. They got Darrell Moore. He went for 16 and 16. But I think the size of Syracuse's big three, you got Oshae Brissett, Frank Howard, and Tyus Battle. Those guys average about 6'6", and then Brian Crawford, Mitchell Wilbekin, they're only about 6'2", 6'3". I think Syracuse needs to come out. They're going to be physical, get to the rack, open up shooting lanes for their teammates, and if they knock down shots, they're going to come away with the W in Brooklyn.
I think the Orange are going to take this one as well. I have them winning at 68-61. Syracuse gets the win. Syracuse shot 50% from three-point range in their win against Wake Forest in the Carrier Dome. It'll be interesting to see if Syracuse can replicate a performance like that on a neutral site in Brooklyn. Also, I think the key for the Orange, like I mentioned earlier, is to avoid sloppy plays. You mentioned Darrell Moore. He's a little bit bigger than Pascal Chukwu size-wise, not as tall, but he has a bigger paint presence, and I think to see how he matches up against the Syracuse bigs will be quite interesting down low, but I think the Orange will do just enough to pull out this win.
Well, there's no denying the Orange certainly needs a win for its NCAA tournament chances. Both our analysts think that they're going to get it. Thank you so much for watching, and be sure to tune in to Citrus TV Sports on Twitter for all your updates from the Barclays Center on Tuesday. For AJ Fabry, Mike Adzema, the rest of our great Cuse Countdown crew, I'm Jonathan Hoppe, and we'll see you next time.